Welcome, friends. I want to address this episode to parents and also to teachers because the relationship that we develop with the playing student or with the student who plays instrument doesn't matter what it is, but maybe it does affect more Suzuki students because in Suzuki students we have such a strong teamwork between the parent, the teacher, and the child is the one that benefits of this. And so it's important, actually, the same thing that applies to us teachers apply also to us parents. What do we do when we have a student or a child that practices and has a mistake? While practicing, you can recognize a mistake. So teachers will recognize the mistake straight away. With parents, sometimes it'll take time, and sometimes parents will not recognize the mistake. Now, if it's a minute mistake or a very small mistake, almost like a hidden mistake, you might even not hear it. But if it's a mistake which is a bit more clear and you don't know the music, and when I say you don't know the music, I mean you don't know the music by ears, or you don't have the music in your head, then you don't know that there is a mistake. Moreover, when a student plays a wrong note or many wrong notes, and I'm now referring to Suzuki students, and they don't stop to correct it, or they don't realize that they do a mistake, and doesn't matter if it's book 1, book 2, book 6, book 8, or after their Suzuki repertoire, I mean, more advanced students. When they don't realize that there is a mistake, what does it tell us? It tells us that the music is not actually in the brain. The music is not in the ears. The music is not in the head. So really irrelevant to what stage it is. If there is a mistake, the student does not recognize the mistake or doesn't hear the mistake, we don't have to do much, just to encourage the child, or if the child is young, to do it for them, to listen, to put the Suzuki recording on a repeat and listen. And guess what happens then? The mistake or the mistakes correct themselves. So without you pointing out, hey, there's a mistake here, the mistakes correct themselves. As simple as it is. Now, if it's a mistake which is hiding at some point and it does not correct itself, which will be very, very rare, then we might actually say, oops, just listen to this one. What's happening here? But please do not offer a correction. Because one of the real fun, real joy in learning something new, and especially language, and music is language, is finding for yourself, correcting by yourself, and as I said before, and sometimes you allow the thing to correct itself without any effort on your side. Let's go just to the idea of spoken language. When you learn a language, maybe we'll go to mother tongue language. When you learn your mother tongue and you hear it repeatedly, you might not be able to say the same way that other people around you say it. So if every time you say the mistake, or you say it with a mistake, wrong accent, wrong pronunciation, or whatever, and if every time you say it, somebody jumps at you and corrects it, I don't think you will want to try for a long time. At some point you will stop. Or if you do it, you won't do it with joy. So when you hear a word over and over again, you also learn to pronounce it, to say it correctly, in a very natural manner, not without somebody correcting you the whole time that you say it incorrectly. So the same goes with Suzuki pieces, because I'm calling them Suzuki pieces, but I mean pieces that we learn in the repertoire. We listen to them over and over and over again. And if we have wrong notes, they correct themselves. Sometimes I hear parents or teachers saying to me, yeah, but I'm worried that my child or my student will get used to play the wrong note. And I say to them, no, they won't get used to learn to play the wrong note. They will only if they don't actually listen to the recording. If they've done a mistake and they don't listen to the recording, most likely they will continue doing the mistake because that's the last thing that they were listening to, the mistake. So they will repeat the mistake. But if they play the mistake and then they continue listening to the right, correct recording, it will stop. Maybe sooner, maybe later, but it will stop. The same with language. I noticed when I learned English as a second language, there were many people around me that wanted to correct me, and I was polite, so I didn't actually stop them. But the truth is, I didn't want them to correct me. What I did want them to do is to repeat the right version over and over and over again until I can do it. And sometimes I could not do it on the same day, not even on the same week, just after enough repetitions. Now, you might ask, what is enough? What is enough repetitions? Unfortunately, I can't tell you, because for every human being, it'll be different. Some people need just a few repetitions and it corrects itself. Some people need more. If you are, or your student is, or your child is one of the people of the sort that need more repetition, and you don't want to wait for a long time, just put more repetition, more listening, and it will correct itself sooner. It makes so much sense. It's actually so simple. It can be so simple. So what I'm saying here is when you have your student or your child or yourself, if you're the one that learns the instrument, making a mistake, don't worry or don't be too hard on yourself. Just say, okay, I'm not going to practice it now. I'm just going to listen more. You bring the work here instead of to your body that creates the music. Now, for you parents, you might say, but I'm not doing music. I don't know anything about music. And you know, if you heard me talking before, that I don't think you need to be a parent that knows music if you are a Suzuki parent. On the contrary. Really on the contrary, because if you come with a fresh mind, with a beginner's mind, and you just learn from what the teacher represents you, you don't have to undo anything because you come with new ideas. You know, beginner's mind, Zen mind, beginner's mind, that's the best mind to be. So you develop from the beginning, you develop the way, the philosophy, the way of learning, the way that your teacher presents you, the Suzuki way of learning. So you don't need to know the music, but if you are not recognizing the piece and you got a hint from the teacher that this piece needs more listening, my friendly advice to you will be, listen to the piece too. I mean, nothing will happen to you if you listen. You don't need to play the piece. Just listen to it. When you drive, wherever you drive, just put a CD there, if you've got a CD, or make a CD of it, and listen to it over and over and over again. And you will be surprised how much you learn. And then when your child does a mistake, you will hear it. But then, no, don't jump and correct. Just smile to yourself. Shrug. I always say to parents, just learn to do the Mona Lisa smile and the shrug. In a good nature, with a good nature. It's enough that you recognize where it is. You don't need to offer help. And you don't have to jump and say, this is a mistake. No. So, it will help you parent if you increase the listening of a piece which takes time for your child to learn, or your child has difficulties in learning. And if not, if you don't want to listen more, just make sure that your child listens more. That's enough. I always say that I love questions, and it's right. I love asking questions, and I love also people ask me questions. Because when you ask me questions, it triggers my mind to think. It's an invitation to go deeper in anything that you ask about. So if a child does a mistake, you can ask at the question, so to speak, instead of giving the answer. Instead of saying, this is wrong, you can ask, do you think it was the right one? Because I'm not sure. You can always be not sure, you parent. Don't play the one who knows, he who knows or she who knows. Be in the same place of your child. Let them discover where the wrong notes are. Let them discover where they want to correct, or where the teacher wants them to correct. So in this way, which is exactly the way we learn language, as I said, if this is the way you correct mistakes, and I almost feel like doing correct mistakes, you correct wrong notes, or you become more and more, closer and closer to the real way that you want your child to do it, the listening is the key. The listening is the key. Not sitting with your child the instrument and doing it again. When you want to correct a wrong note, make sure that you listen and let the wrong note, the incorrect note, correct itself. So what does this have to do with joy? It has the joy of discovery. We know that one of the key elements of to enjoy learning a new skill is to find whatever is hidden from us with curiosity, with interest, with a light heart, with something that you want to do, not you have to do. When you correct mistakes, or when you're sent to correct mistakes, there is a little bit like a chore. It becomes a chore because you have to do it again and again and again and again, and you don't even know where it is. So you're always waiting for someone to tell you where it is and how to do it. So keeping things in the mystery of the learning adds a lot of fun to the learning process. I think this is one of the reasons that many people want to learn by themselves. Throughout my life, I learned lots of people who were autodidacts. They were teaching themselves. They chose and preferred to learn by themselves instead of joining a group or joining a class or joining a school or a studio or someone who will teach them. And when I interviewed these people, when I spoke to them, I realized that all of them are carrying some memories, some sour memories, some bitter memories from teachers who were jumping on them and correcting, not actually doing the Mona Lisa smile or the shrug and saying, I wonder what's happening here. Now, when this is your style of teaching or raising your kids, it's not only that your child holds the curiosity and enjoy the process of learning, it's also you enjoy it more. It's much easier or much more fun, much more joyful to teach in this way than to be the sergeant that looks for the mistake and say, that's wrong. Invite the child, invite your child, invite your student to find out the mistakes. Now, I'm not saying that you have to tell them, okay, there is a mistake, you have to go on and correct it, because that defeats the point. Find a way to keep the interest, the curiosity, and the mystery of the learning. We all know that actually we human beings are born with a natural desire to learn. Because if we don't learn, we don't survive. Evolution is based on learning. Suzuki Sensei always used to say, can you imagine if the next generation would not be better than the previous generation or would not learn, we will still all be in the Stone Age. But because every generation, every time, we learn more, we develop. This is how evolution happens. So we are born, we're actually almost equipped from the day we are born, maybe even in the womb, to like to learn. We like learning. You can see how when children are born, their eyes are open, they swallow the whole world around them because they have a natural desire to learn. What happens later, for many of them, unfortunately, very unfortunately, this desire is being suffocated. So many of us adults as well are walking on this planet with an extinguished desire to learn because of the I don't want to use trauma, because of past data that we carry in our body, in our brain, in our cell memory, that when we do something wrong, somebody jumps and corrects us. Now, I'm not saying don't offer help if you're asked for help. If a child will say, I can't do it, can you help me? Of course I'll help. I'll do it gladly. But you know, if you're raising a child or if you're teaching children, that I'm sure you know this phenomena. I realized it early in my motherhood, in early stages of motherhood. Like my daughter, my son, it was usually my daughter would say, I can't do it. I just can't do it, while she was doing homework. So I just came and sat by her side. The minute I said, she said, I can do it. So I never actually helped her to do homework, or my son, never helped them. But my presence next to them while they were struggling or while they had a challenge, this was the help they needed. Just recently, this week, actually just this week, I had a student playing a piece from, I think, what was it? Maybe the Italian concerto by Johann Sebastian Bach. Maybe it was another piece of that level. And the girl said, it's hard, I'm not sure, I can't do it. Maybe she didn't even say I can't do it, but she expressed her need for me to help her. So I left my piano and I came and sat by her side on her piano. I took a breath. I came in order to help. I took a breath and immediately she said, yeah, I can see what it is. And I looked at Mom and I said, this is what happens in most cases. And it was interesting because Mom said, you know, you're right. I never actually put words to it, but that's exactly what happens. So even when your child is asking you for help, it doesn't mean that you have to jump and help straight away. Just come and sit by themselves, by their side. And do it without words, just with heart open with love that you have anyway. And if you see that by the fact that you sat there didn't help, just say, okay, let's see what's happening there. Just be with the child, not in front of the child, just by your child's side. In that way, the natural curiosity of the child will not be ruined. The natural joy of learning will prevail. And when your child enjoys learning, you enjoy their process of learning. We might touch more, and just feel free to ask me questions about this topic. I'll be more than happy. So you can put it in the comments, or you can send your question to me in social media or in my email, because I think you know by now how I love questions. And I will be delighted to relate to the questions you're asking. I might sometimes not even answer the question, or my answer might not satisfy you. But my heart is always open to give a feedback, to comment. So I'd like to finish today's episode by saying, happy learning. Happy learning, because learning can be happy. Learning of any sort. Actually, learning should be happy. And if it's not like this, we can always reverse it and make it happy. So happy learning.